Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming today. My name is Catherine Garzon. I've been studying at the EAN University for more than 2 years, and we've been making a deep research about why the companies are entering into new foreign markets and what are the strategies that they're using. And that's what I want to talk about today. I mentioned some of the strategies to enter to a foreign market. The objective of this presentation is to inform about the strategies that the companies are developing to enter to a foreign market. But we also want you to be prepared when you're trying to take your company overboard. So first, we'll mention the international expansion, and inside this topic, we'll mention the strategies, the needs of a foreign market, the types of entry, and eventually we'll mention an example of a Colombian company who is already in an international expansion. So please, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them, but we'll do it at the end of the presentation. So I want to start by this phrase from Leon Mejenson, who said that it's not the strongest or the most intelligent who will survive, but those who can best manage change. And entering into a foreign market can be challenging, but it's rewarding at the same time. It's a really big change, so that's why we want to make sure you are prepared to facing it, and you'll be developing this in a successful way. So what are the reasons that companies are entering into a new market? So first, because they want to improve the cost effectiveness of their operation. So a good example of this is the Intel company microprocessor. They wanted to improve the cost of effectiveness, and they found that China has low cost and increasingly sophisticated production capabilities. So that's what they did. Also, companies like Embraer, the airplane company, and mobile phone Nokia, they wanted to expand their new markets for new customers. So what they did is to invest in China so they could find new customers in China. And to follow global customers. So an example of this is the company Schneider Logistics, who found that most of the customers were from Germany. So what they did is to open a new franchise in Germany so their customers could access easily to their products. So now that we know the reasons that companies are entering into new markets, we're going to talk about the strategies. So what are the strategies for international expansion? First, planning. So it's really important that you prioritize what are the countries that you want to enter to, and then you're gonna evaluate each country's relative merits. But you also need to make sure you are you find the regional differences inside the country. Then the international market due diligence. So this aspect is really related to planning, but it also, you need to make sure of their potential size, the accessibility, the costs of operation, and buyer needs and practices to add a company. So you can whether decide if you want to invest in this entering market. So for example, most of the companies, when evaluating to enter China, they see as an advantage the large size of the country. But actually 70% of the people live in rural areas, which means that they cannot access to high costs. For example, they cannot access to many United States products because they are expensive. But even a deeper research found that there's a lot of poor people in China, but they've been getting better when they're access to these new products. So that's what you need to do when you're entering into a new market, is that you make this kind of researchments to the countries. Okay, so now regional differences. You need to identify some languages that they have, the cultures, traditions, manners, and they also have some different tastes of foods or stuff related like that. And understanding local customs. So for example, here in Colombia, we don't really we really make sure that the products are not expensive, but if you go, for example, to Japan, what they really like is the better quality of their products, and they don't mind how much or how high the price is, since the product has better quality. So you need to understand what the customers are expect from our product. So now the understanding the strategies to enter to a foreign market, we're going to identify the needs of the market. So how to learn the needs of a new market? So differentiation and capability. This is really important, is to identify our competition. We need to make deep research about our competitive companies and what do they have, how we can make our product better and differentiated to the companies that are already settled in the country. A good example is that, for example, two companies in Chile trying to enter to this new market. They found they didn't make a deep research after those two companies couldn't success, because then after a certain time they found that these companies already have their own bank access to the customers. So that's what we need to make, really make a deep research or investigation about this. The industry dynamics. So this is really important. For example, when companies are making some infrastructure in big countries. For example, the president in Spain said, we need to make sure that these power companies actually have money. So they usually invest in big power companies like United States, China, or Singapore. The PESTEL analysis. So this is one of the, I think, the most important points, and is that we need to also make sure this we make a research of these aspects, like political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and laws context. We need to make a research about the government, what are the inflation rates, if they have some trade barriers, or in contrast they have some trade agreements that we can take advantage of. The economic factors, if the inflation rates are high, for example in Venezuela or Argentina, this is not the moment to open a new foreign market. So things like that we need to make sure that they're working good. So when we get into we don't want to identify these factors when we are already in the country. We need to be prepared before we enter to these markets. The social factors about all the cultural aspects and technological factors sometimes are really beneficial for us, because then we can offer innovate stocks trades or innovate products to our customers. So now let's continue with the types of entry. The types of entry. can be the exporting, which is one of the easiest one, because we can send our products, and through the time we can identify what are the things that the companies like, and also the customers. In the future we can open a new market in the country. The partnership strategy alliances, this is good when we open or when we have an alliance with a company that is already in the country. We can take advantage of that, because this alliance company they already know about the culture, and it's a little bit easier for us. The licensing and franchising, the acquisitions, that when we acquire a company, we identify if it was successful, to make sure we keep the same strengths in order to keep the customers, or in contrast, what are the things that we need to improve, so we can make some surveys to the customers, and that's it. A new wholly owned subsidiary, which is the most expensive one, because you're gonna open a new market, is actually beneficial when the firm retains control of your own operations. So you can basically you can do whatever you want inside your country, but with a previous research made. Now, an example of a Colombian company who already succeeded. So in December 1st, in 1987, this company was called Nalsani S.A. by Jonathan Borsenkin. Then he visited Milan, and he started to develop new backpacks, canvas backpacks, and bags. Between 1989 and 1991, sorry. In 1992, they had their first international franchise in Costa Rica. In 2003, they were recognized because it was one of the best companies to work in Colombia. They actually have the headquarters in Cali, and what they did was to show their products, their clothing products and products, to parades. So that's how people knew about them. And now the brand is present in more than 40 countries and has over 600 stores worldwide. So the strategy that they used was the acquisition. They acquired a leather company who wasn't successful, and they took advantage of it. And what they did is to renew its business by using canvas to create these bags and backpacks. So now the conclusion. I really hope that this information have been useful and understandable for you. It's really important that you follow all the steps and aspects that I already mentioned, but every country has different strategies and points that you need to take more into account than others. So that's what you need to identify. So this is the time for questions. So if you have any question, please be free to ask them. Okay, thank you so much for your time and your questions. As I said before, I hope that you enjoyed this presentation, and I really wish you the best luck when you're opening your businesses in a foreign company. If you have any further questions in the future, I'll be for you and I'll be answering your questions. Thank you.